I'll talk more about this later, but I'm just talking about it now, just in case somebody would be in life trying to figure it out. The first thing that we understand about spirituality is Saturn. Saturn is the reality that we are tuned in and tapped into the physical world. No matter what we do, we want to be tuned in and tapped into the physical world. Because the moment that we're not tuned in and tapped into the physical world, we cease to exist. So people who transcend Saturn and move into Neptune without being grounded generally are into psychedelics. It could even be into teas, caffeine, nicotine, cannabis, and things of that nature, because reality is too much for a person to deal with. And that always brings us back to Saturn. Saturn is a transpersonal planet. However, it does rule the root chakra, and it rules the fascia of the body. Knowing how to specifically activate Saturn is activating your root chakra. But activating your root chakra, activating your karma, activating your psychic sense is rooted in the foundation of the land. So the bottom of the pentagram is land, life, liberty, love, and light. But the bottom is law. Law relates to land, which relates to earth. From the earth, you go to air. Earth, air, reality, mind. The mind is all, which is true. However, we are rooted in human existence. In the space of spirituality, conscious community, people get in here and they'll just talk to you about bullshit for hours on hours. And it does feel good and it do sound good. But if ain't nobody giving you no real, reasonable, actionable steps, then they just beating your ears up. Everything is everything. You can believe in supernatural, but how you gonna be supernatural and you don't really understand the natural? If you was to understand natural, then you would fully understand what supernatural is, because natural is amazing. You don't skip natural and go to supernatural. You stay rooted in natural, and that's kind of super if you really think about it. So the 5 elements: land, law, starting off. Then you go to liberty, free will, the mind. The mind is all. From liberty, you don't just sit and ponder within your body and think and utilize free will into different thought spheres, opening up different books, utilizing your mind for mental masturbation. No, you take the land, the law, and liberty, the mind, earth, air, and then you start to move, water. Now, these are things that you will do naturally. Magic is when you're focused in a specific intention, right? Now you are, because once again, you're going to want something and not root it in land, and you already shooting yourself in the foot before you start. Even if it's reasonable, rational, logical to get there, if you're not having the specific steps to get there, it might take you a longer way to get there. Just like, say for instance, directions to get to a place. It's not to say that you can't get to the place without the directions. It's just a hell of a lot easier if you have directions. This is why in all magical conversations, in all spiritual conversations for here and out, if people are not providing you a practical understanding for what they're saying, they just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And you can always leverage your following, and your following could create the ambiance that you know a lot. But the reality is, the blind can always lead the blind, ladies and gentlemen. And spirituality, where we might look at it as an escape, is just something that you would have to understand like anything else. And the thing of understanding spirituality is that it's somewhat precise. It's somewhat simple. But if it's not engaged, it won't be activated. So you see the pentagram. You see another thing, magic is real. The problem is that if you don't believe magic is real, then you won't be persistent with your rituals. The same way if I told you electricity was real and you wanted to utilize your computer or your electronic device, but you ain't plug it in all the time. You just plugged it in once in a while. That's how spiritual people be. They talk to you once in a while, when they feel like it, when they need to make some money, things of that nature. But the reality of spirituality is that it's a constant, precise, mathematical understanding. The thing about magic is that it's real, but you have to understand it. Magic is real from the root existence of your life. If you are alive, that is a magical phenomenon. You can talk about how many sperm cells that it took for you to be incarnated, the odds between having a mom that didn't treat you like Brenda and throw you in a dumpster, all of the times you've been in traumatic situations and came out on the other side of it, could have got kidnapped, so many different things, right? But none of that happened, and you're alive. That's magic. To do magic would be to focus on the fact of your existence, which would be Saturn, which would be the root of all ritual. Now, the issue would be most people start their ritual with what they want, not with who they are. So a master magician, the difference between a master magician and a novice isn't so much as like DNA or differences biologically. The difference is the master magician knows who they are and the novice knows what they want. To manifest Saturn, law, land, earth, you would just have to simply know who you are and where you are at. From there, you have liberty, free will to act accordingly into reference of where you're at. Now, if you move, you're moving in a way that's indicative to your life. Life, water, rivers, movement, synonymous. And then you cross back down into light, enlightenment, passion, fire. So now you have your 4 elements. You have the enlightenment, the clarity to move not in a specific way in which you don't like and love, But in reference to magic, you better be moving towards love. So you have movement, you have enlightenment, you have clarity, you have free will, and you have the reality of your existence. Once you realize that that's all you need, everything else that you hear, you just hear a bunch of people just don't know. And it's okay not to know, because we can all learn. That's what we're all down here to do, is to learn. But it's very difficult when you have an ego and you're seeking permanence and you're seeking, success and all of these things that spirit may or may not give you. Spirit is much smarter than your conscious mind, so you can't pull on it and utilize it like a lottery. However, you can be very practical and very rational when it comes to how you're going to live your life. And if you're going to live your life with a particular focus, that is more spiritual than somebody with the crystals and all of the right words to say. Think about it. Think about the times that you are in conscious situations and it has been utterly traumatic. But you thought, since it was love and light and Hotep and Ashe, that maybe this would be different than dealing with Jermaine. Turned out the Hotep love and light person was way worse, because spirituality is not a game. And it take a strong motherfucker to deal with the ancestors, to deal with Ashe, to deal with the Loa, to deal with the grandmothers, to deal with the deities, and sit and lie to you in your face for a couple of dollars. That take a lot of nerve. But the reason why they do that is to perpetuate the fact that magic isn't real. Even though they're talking about consciousness, they're not giving you detailed, precise understandings of how to manifest. You manifest through concentration and focus. That's it. You concentrate on something, you focus on it, and you work towards it until it materializes itself in 3D reality. However, if you wishing for things to appear out of nowhere, what they'll say is that you're out of your mind. You ever heard somebody say, man, that nigga out of his mind? What do that mean? That mean when you are not in the realms of Saturn, you wish to be something outside of your body. But no matter how deep you are, you'll never be somebody else. You always gonna be yourself. So you stay rooted into yourself, whether you 5'6", 350, weigh 90 pounds, soaking wet, 6'4", big titties, little titties, fat ass, small ass, big dick, small dick. You accept whatever the fuck you are. You see the problem with life, what I just said? These motherfuckers will get a BBL. These motherfuckers will get fake dreadlocks and fake everything, right? Switch shit around. And it's not like I care. I'm saying that acceptance of the physical body is the first step of life, because yes, you could go to a doctor and change things. Yes, you could work out. Yes, you could go get therapy. Yes, you could do all of these things. But what does it result to? Even if you get a fucking Brazilian butt lift, you're going to have to accept the Brazilian butt lift. You're going to have to accept being a fat ass. You're going to have to accept being a fine-tuned health machine. Whatever the case may be, you're going to have to accept it. That is Saturn. So it's not a case of right or wrong. It's always a case of acceptance. The issue is you get the Brazilian butt lift and you still can't accept it. You get the fake wave, 360 waves, and you still can't accept it because now your toupee is falling off. You get the relationship, and the relationship don't make you feel the way that you thought it was going to make you feel. The reason why you feel the way that you feel and you experience the things that you experience is because you're not concentrating or focusing on what you want. Think about it. When you want to go to the store to get some food, your ass will manifest some food. When you want to get your hair done, you manifest a beautician. When you want to get some new shoes, you manifest a shoe store, a sneaker store, Finish Line. Concentration and focus is accepting where you're at. I'm at home right now, and I need to I need to go to Finish Line to get Jordans. You don't watch a person on YouTube and find rituals to get Jordans. No, you accept your reality. You get your ass in your car and you drive there because you have free will to get in your car, to drive to the store. Movement, motion, water, emotions, energy in motion. Once you get the shoes, you are enlightened to what it feels like to get the shoes. And you love the fact that you bought the shoes that you wanted, that you seen online, and you drove and got your shoes. You concentrated and you focused. The whole time you was going to get them shoes, you drove past a McDonald's, a Wendy's, a Jiffy Lube. Goddamn, you drove past a goddamn accident, didn't even slow down, kept going. You're focused. You're concentrating on getting the new Jordan 11s. Well, they not new Jordan 11s, they old Jordan 11s, but they new now. But you wanted them, you got them. That is magic. You wanted those Jordans. Not everybody wanted those Jordans. It was specific, it was subjective, but you utilized the magical process to manifest it. It's very simple. If you manifested clothes on your back, you don't need to go to a guru to see how you can manifest a business, manifest a relationship. If you concentrate and focus on your partner, you can't even do that because everything is sensitive and everything is a form of being triggered, because when it comes to your relationship, guess what? You haven't accepted the reality of a person living in your damn house. Isn't that amazing? You haven't even accepted the reality of being in a relationship and the concentration and focus that comes. Like, think about how you gonna look online and see people in relationships doing shit and look at your partner in your relationship and then just be like, well, we not going to do nothing. We not going to be like that, or we not even going to have conversations about what we're going to do as a couple. We're just going to be the type of couple that go to work and see each other after work. We not going to travel together. We not going to start a business together. We ain't going to buy a house together. We ain't going to get married. Why is that? Because y'all haven't accepted the fact that y'all are even together. and having sex. Think about that. Because what happens after y'all decide that y'all in a relationship? You have free will. You have motion. You have enlightenment. You have love. Now imagine that if you don't accept the relationship and you're in the relationship without accepting it, what is the relationship? The relationship is dead. You're dead. They're dead. Everybody dead because there is no life. Life doesn't even come first. Life comes after acceptance and liberty. Like, think about consciousness. You existed before you were thinking. People say they remember when they was 1, 2, and 3, but I don't. I remember when I was 4 years old. That's when I start remembering, and the shit was vague. It was kind of spotty. Didn't really start to go day for day until I started going to school. Kindergarten, still kind of spotty. Probably about first grade, started to really hit, man, I'm a person. I have autonomy at some point. Those times before that, I don't even know what the fuck was happening. I was there, but I really wasn't there. And here I was being formed. They call that your formative years, because you don't even remember the shit that's happening. What I'm saying is, life ain't the first thing that happens in reference to consciousness. Life is something that should come after. Love at first sight is bullshit if you really think about it. Because if you love somebody, but they not going to build you up or acknowledge. Okay, so this is the thing. Love at first sight, but liberty is free will. The problem with relationships, I know from my perspective, I know exactly what the hell I want to do. A relationship, a person will come into your life and argue you and tell you that what you want to do ain't what you actually want to do, because what you do is actually hurting somebody or is making somebody unhappy. And the reality of unhappiness is that I've come to figure out is that a human being is 100% responsible for their happiness. Meaning that I could have never made you unhappy or happy, even if I tried. It's 100% your responsibility. So thinking about that, liberty comes from acceptance of a relationship, which entails liberty, free will, autonomy, truth in thought, then action. If you're not truthful in your relationship, if there's no free will in your relationship, there is no life. Now you understand why the relationship ends, or why the relationship have to end, or if y'all together, you still feel like, I wish this relationship will end, because there is no life within the relationship. There is no acceptance and there is no freedom. If ever you in a relationship and you telling your partner you can't do this and you can't do that, then there's no life. There is no enlightenment and there is no love. Hopefully there's some acceptance, but 10 times out of 10, it ain't no acceptance. This is how a person can be very spiritual or supposedly spiritual, but don't got no relationship. They don't got nobody that love they ass. Nobody that want to kiss them and tell them good night, but they got everybody, they got the whole world fooled that they spiritual. Damn sociopath can't assist within a relationship, no patience to actually deal with a person, because a person can't accept the reality. You know, a spiritual person can't accept reality because they gotta be spiritual. Think about it. Too spiritual. Everything normal in life, They got a spiritual reason for why they don't need that. They just the exception to everything in the world. No, they just don't accept nothing. This is why they can't exist within a relationship. Because I will always want to be with somebody that's considerate, loving, and tolerant, to the point that I'm not the end-all, be-all of their happiness. Meaning that if you can understand that your happiness and your joy is something that you're supposed to share with your partner, then you can be in a relationship. But if you conditional, unaccepting of reality, narcissistic, living on your terms, uncompromising, to the point that you can't even bring freedom within your relationship. Your relationship is that of a prison. Then you want to talk about magic. No, you don't get to do magic. The ancestors don't fuck with you. The spirit guides don't fuck with you for real. Yeah, you can be blind and you can lead the blind people, and I still haven't figured that part out. I don't know why shit is the way that it is all the time. And I don't purport to act like I do know that. I do know that as I'm thinking about some shit, I'm preparing for a presentation on Enoch, and it's causing me to really, really think about shit. Like my brain is like at a different level. Like I'm thinking on shit that I never even like thought about, and it's thinking to be so practical and so rational and so reasonable that I figured that this would happen. What I mean is that like I would always be afraid of like being so spiritual that I would just be like, you know what? I'm gonna just go get a job. I'm gonna just like not do none of this shit ever again. Like I would just be like, I never think like that. But like doing the study of Enoch, I don't feel like that, but I understand if I have to feel like that, I'm more than willing to just say fuck everything and just like be a truck driver or something like that. Like, it's not a big deal. Nothing is really a big deal, because when it comes to doing the work and living your life and taking care of your family, everything just is everything, right? It's no superstition, there's no bad luck, there's no need to do this or do that. And the deeper thing is like I could get a job and still do the spiritual shit if I wanted to, you know? It's never a point where I'm not spiritual. It's just more of like looking at everything from the most realistic perspective and figure out what I'm trying to get for myself and for my family. And understanding that what I need and what I want out of life is going to require concentration and focus. You tend to start to say, well, I don't feel like talking to people who not really even interested in accepting reality. Because here I am, knee deep in acceptance and dealing with everything that comes with acceptance, scrutiny, vulnerability, the inability to be in la la land and shit like that, just happen to be in reality and making calculated steps. And then like everything is like weighed against me, or just certain things like just background shit, negativity, things that like I'm thinking about, like I don't even want to feel this, right? And just, just doing the shadow work, I guess, basically being 100% honest with myself. What is the best thing for you to do in this moment? Like, where it's just like, just make, $700 a day. dropping off some loads and just call it a day, stack up money and just, just whatever, is that the best thing to do versus, the spiritual work and just, just processing it all. But it's not like I'm leaning towards that or leaning towards this. It's just being a spiritual person, you gotta be honest with yourself so you're not crazy, is what I'm saying. And for me, I can be honest with y'all because I don't be here to be perked out. I don't be here to lie. This is just conversations that was really on my mind. And it wasn't negative because I know like I want to move somewhere down south and I want to make sure that my family is taken care of. So if I need to get a job, I'll just get a job just to get us on our feet and that type of deal. So being spiritual is like, what ritual, what spell can I do to find a house and all of this weird shit. And I don't feel like I don't think like that, I think very rationally, very practically, but to me, that's the spiritual shit. Like my spiritual life from then to now is teaching me that you could change, you could make things better if you accept where you're at. That's a powerful place to just be, this is where I am at. 'Cause when you don't do that, you stress the fuck out. You not in the realms of Saturn. You in the realms of Neptune, Pluto, or Uranus without the grounding, without the foundation, without the purpose, without the life, without the consciousness, without the fact that you have free will. Acceptance is a powerful tool when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to understanding that even if you are the deepest, most spiritual person in the world, that's not even the goal to spirit. Wasn't never even the goal. The goal was always to take the middle path. The goal was to be reasonable, rational, but grateful for all of the ashe. Grateful for all of the spirituality that's coursing through your veins right now in this moment. But not to just say, you know what, fuck life and fuck my relationships and I don't need no relationship and I don't need no money and I don't need no job and I don't need no house and I don't need. You're too spiritual. You too spiritual. I'm going to start my business. Y'all, that's some crazy shit. Starting a business. The reason why I was thinking like, damn, even if, say for instance, you make $1 million. Your business make $1 million. How much did you spend to make that $1 million? How much did you gotta pay in taxes because you made $1 million? Most people that make $1 million, the most that people take home is $400K. That $400K is getting taxed. That puts you in the 50%, probably down to at least 3 to 250, 250 to 300. And then you got $250,000 lifestyle. You eating out more. Your car costs more. Your house costs more in rent. The clothes you buy cost more. So you gotta hustle. You gotta get back. You damn near making the same amount of money as you would at a job. And Spirit said that's how we get motherfuckers. We give motherfuckers that illusion that they doing so well. But they was doing the same type of well when they was working at the damn grocery store. Because they live in the same type of way. They making the same type of choices because they never accepted reality from the time they was 17 to the time that they was 47. These motherfuckers out here in La La Land, for the most part. Afraid to accept reality because afraid to see what's on that other side. And I'm ready to tune in and tap into some magical shit, for real, for real. But the way that I'm thinking about magic from here on out is extremely practical, extremely rational, and understanding the minutiae and the mechanics of business. Because it's not really reasonable and rational for me to do everything by myself. And it's not like I do everything by myself, me and my wife as a team. But even that is not something that is sustainable. What's sustainable is expansion. What's sustainable is growth. But the first part of that is accepting where I'm at. Either I'm going to expand for real with people who want to expand for real. You know, you got to vet people. You got to have discernment. Or I'm going to have to, figure something else out. Not like figure something else out outside of spirituality. Like I got hella ideas that I'm bringing forward and I'm excited about all my ideas, but I'm just not into being like overworked or not doing shit where I'm not a specialist at. And it's specialists out here that can do quadruple times better than what I could do in specific things. This is where learning skills, developing talent, and these things will help you in your Saturn energy, where you accept your reality much easier if you have skills, if you have talents, if you have abilities. But you should be able to lay it on the table. What I mean by lay it on the table is that if a person don't feel compelled to write a review on your specific talent, skill, or abilities, then you're probably not that good at it, which is okay. It just means that you need to get better. Your talent, skill, or ability should be something that people talk about for years and years and years. And the only way that people going to talk about it is if you learn. And the thing about learning is that it's not necessarily learning, it's remembering. This is why you should be engaged and fully concentrated and focused on becoming a better version of yourself. Because it's things within you that you don't even know that you know. But if you're too concerned with the external, which will move you into not accepting your reality, you not really in the game of doing this magic. I just be tired of watching people lie to y'all all day too. That shit funny. It's funny, but it's sad. It's sad because don't nobody know. Motherfuckers out here guessing. Motherfuckers will hit you with a in a heartbeat and act like you don't even gotta be a specialist out here. You don't even gotta, when I came up, motherfuckers was studying. Bobby Hemmett, everybody talk about Bobby Hemmett, but Bobby Hemmett was a master. Bobby Hemmett knew his shit. Y'all know Bobby Hemmett. See the difference? Bobby Hemmett gave out books. Y'all listening to Bobby Hemmett videos. If anything, you should have been reading the books and talking about the books that he was putting out. Not talking about them like niggas will know the title, niggas will know the author. But I dare you to be like, well, what was they talking about in the book? Let's have a whole chat about the ins and outs of the book that Bobby Hemmett was referencing on the video. I guarantee you a nigga hit you with so many crickets. I'm saying all of these spiritual people is cap. And then they just be making shit up. And they be worried about the vaccine. They just all fucked up right now in these streets. And I be tired of it. So I just be like, man, I'm going to just try to give some clarity. I don't know. I just be feeling like, damn. Motherfuckers really don't want y'all to be spiritual. Like, it's when they say powers that be, when they talk about Central Intelligence Agency, when they talk about, like, I be watching multiple videos and motherfuckers just be talking the most nonsensical shit. In the chat just be like, yeah, that's what's up. Niggas just be saying, I heard a nigga say some shit. Motherfucker was asking questions. And the shit, like for 3 or 4 questions, the motherfucker was like, yeah, everything. The nigga said everything like 4 times in a row. And I was just like, this nigga literally saying everything to every question. like, I'm just saying, I'm laughing about it, but it's real sad because this is the majority. And this is the system set up where a motherfucker can just feel like everything is spiritual. Like everything is just everything. It's just everything. And it's just like, damn, niggas can't even be masters no more. Niggas can't even be masters. Niggas can't even, like, if you got a book, break that motherfucking book down. You feel me? Don't tell me about the fucking title. Don't tell me about the fucking author. Don't tell me I need to read a motherfucking book. Break that bitch down. That's concentration, and that's focus, and that's magic. Because essentially your spirit bought that book, told you to get that book for a reason. You got all of these books. That's all ego. That's lack of acceptance. Acceptance is opening these books, taking notes, understanding these books. Like, people be so smart, so brilliant, so talented, so skillful, but so unsure of themselves. Work so hard to develop these external validation stickers, certificates, bank accounts, debit cards, credit cards, houses, cars, credentials. Like, really will put in the work for getting all of that shit, but internally be just like a hot air balloon, just ready to burst. One would say it's not necessarily about that moving into 2021, 2022. One would say the problem is you worried about what you can get for yourself, but you're not worried about how you can help the collective. That is the problem. You cannot help the collective if you do not have any fucking skills, talent, or abilities. You can have spiritual skills, talents, and abilities just as well. You just may have to cultivate them. But just because you think that you have that talent, skill, or ability, you have to see if the collective is fucking with you or not. It's easy for me to say I'm a good astrology reader. It's harder for a nigga to say, no, check my reviews. Right? That's different. And I know what it feels like to, I don't have to boast or brag. I'm to the, like, I swear to y'all, I'm not here for nothing in the realms of let's build spiritually, like me give you a reading or some shit like that. I will do that, and I don't mind doing that, but that's not what this conversation is for. It's a very practical, rational, and reasonable conversation about life, about real shit, because motherfuckers have become too spiritual for their own good. It's all about the elements. It's all about law, land, earth. It's all about liberty, mind, air. It's all about life, water, emotion. It's all about light, enlightenment, fire. And it's all about love, compassion. I love my ancestors because my ancestors loved me for no reason. There was no reason for them to look out for me and direct me and help me out along this world and this life. But they made that decision to help me and to give me ashe and to give me movement and to give me grace. That's the love that they have for me, for which I have that same love for them. See, they understood the pentagram. I never understood the pentagram. They understood the elements. I didn't understand the elements. But now that I understand the elements, this is the message that I bring forth with y'all today. This is very magical, but it's also very practical. Acceptance, which would be a law, which would be earth, like concrete, cement, bricks, wood, dirt. These represent the law of physics, physicality. If it's 20 pounds, it's going to be 20 pounds. That's a law. That's an acceptance. You never go into a gym with crystals and meditations and yogas and readings and tarot cards before you pick up the damn 20-pound weight. Because you don't want it to be 20 pounds. You want it to be 10 pounds. So you start to do rituals. Nobody does that. You accept the fact that it's 20 pounds. And if you need to get stronger, you keep working with it. But you don't get stronger without concentration and focus. You don't get stronger without acceptance. And this is life. And that's okay. You don't have to fret or worry because you're living in the realm of acceptance. Even better, your soul accepts this reality every day for you. And accepts it, and it loves you unconditionally. The reason that we do path workings, the reason that we put together the Enochian pentagram is so we can meet and match up with our soul. Because for some reason, we have a hard time accepting that magic is real. And we think other people have it. And we don't think that we have it within ourselves. So, now that I've broken down or tried to explain the 5 elements, you want to make a pentagram with a wand. If you don't have a wand, use a stick. If you don't have a stick, use your finger. Left hand, right hand, however you want to do it. When you make that pentagram, you start with the law, earth. Then you move to the air, liberty. So you're making a pentagram in the sky. I just want to show you that magic is real. You accept your free will. You move in that truth. You accept the enlightenment that comes from that truth. And you understand that this is the love that your ancestors have for you. You open up that portal. You open up that gateway. This is magic. Guess that's it.